Alright, so we're working on the Blink ECU powered Integra. We had an issue with the charging, so the charge light's not coming on, so the alternator's not charging. We initially thought it was a bad alternator, so we're going to show you what to check real quick. So on the back of the cluster, you've got the black yellow here. This should have power with key on. So if you got power with key on here, that means that the fuse is good. The next wire is this white blue wire. This is the other side of the charge light. That should come out to the alternator on pin 3. So when I come out here, and if you look at the back of this connector, it's actually numbered. You see a 1 and 3 on this side and 2 and 4 on this side. So if you look here, pin 3 should be the one with continuity to the gauge cluster, which it does not. Pin 1 does. That means that they pin this improperly, so I've got to figure out to make sure that these other 2 pins aren't wrong. Okay, so this pin right here was what was in pin 3, so I moved the orange to pin 3, that's correct. Now this is the leftover pin, so this should go to the black yellow on the inside of the cluster that I showed you earlier, which it does. So that tells me that they had 1 and 3 backwards. So now the pins are swapped. Pin 2 here, this actually goes to the ECU. I don't think this really matters. This is only an OBD2 thing. This is obviously an OBD2 alternator, but it's running OBD1 hardware, so that should not matter. So everything is right here. We should plug this in and the gauge cluster back in, and hopefully if everything goes well, we'll be charging. Whew. First driving this thing in forever. It's actually moving on its own power, kind of. Oh, it runs like shit. Ooh. Alright, so we're back on this alternator thing, and so if you look here, you'll see the numbers 2, 4, 1, 3. And this is actually why it's important to keep all the old stuff until you're actually done. This numbering is completely wrong. So let me grab the other harness. So this is the factory harness here, and white blue down there, that's actually the charge light. So not only was this pinned incorrectly altogether, so we had the what I assumed was the charge light was down here on pin 3. It's actually from the factory on this side. So this connector was completely pinned wrong from whoever made it in China. So we're gonna have to go back and actually fix it the right way, and then hopefully at that point we'll have working charge. So this is how it should be. So originally we had orange in the upper right hand side and white below it. So, and then gray here was actually up here on the upper left. So we basically switched these two and then mirrored it. So this hopefully is the right configuration. So we're gonna plug it in and test it. Okay, so as you can see, the multimeter's hooked up. It runs kind of rough right now. We still need a lot of tuning, but it's definitely charging now where it wasn't before. So we've got fresh fluids in it today. Transmission fluid, coolant, oil, everything is fresh, power steering even. So we just got to clean it up and we can start tuning it finally now that we have it charging. Okay, so we're starting to clean up the Integra a little bit more. On the coils, we've got the 2 ground wires that go to the head. I've kind of tucked it underneath right there. The power wire I stole from the distributor harness. So this power wire used to go into here and it powered on the internal coil. This car, remember, had a coil on plug setup with the Honda, and this is actually where it jumps to. And the reason why I didn't reuse this connector here, which I definitely could have, but I decided against it because the distributor itself, this is the distributor side of the wiring. So if you ever change the distributor for whatever reason or remove it altogether, you would have to redo this. So instead I just depinned it on the other side and then put a Molex connector in it. The next thing I did is, if you remember before, the car was wasted spark, and it still is, but I added a Molex connector here as well. These 2 wires run out to the 4 coils up front, and then this goes into the ECU side. So now we have nice plug and play. So what we're waiting on now is going to be the expansion harness here, and then the CAN bus harness here for the next round of stuff. So today we've got quite a bit of stuff done. We changed all the fluids today. Engine oil, transmission fluid, coolant, power steering even. and then started buttoning up some of this wiring stuff. So now we're just waiting on the customer to figure out what he wants to do. We plan to add a bunch of sensors, flex fuel, we may add oil pressure and stuff like that, but he's gonna come by tomorrow and we'll talk about it a little bit more. So that for now is basically wrapped up for the moment.